What's going on? It's your boy Haize, one half of the Film Brothers. Still waiting on JayB to be able to come back. He's still working on some things, but today we're here to review Marvel's Eternals. This one has been the critics have really kind of not more critics liked it than not. It's rotten currently on Rotten Tomatoes, but the fans seem to love this movie. I know it's slightly been divisive, but we're gonna get into it right after this. Okay, so I'm here to review Eternals, and so me and my children went and watched this movie basically right after it came out, and we were all excited about seeing this one. I think that the prospect of it being something different than what's been in the Marvel universe has had us excited. Um, and so some of the comments on this movie so far that it feels like a DC movie. It doesn't. First off, it doesn't feel like a DC movie at all. Never got those thoughts about it at all. Does it feel different than what's happened in Marvel? Yes. Is that a bad thing? No. I think that it's an easy if you don't like something as much as some of the other Marvel movies, if you don't like this film as much, it's kind of an easy thing to go to of, well, it just didn't feel like a Marvel movie and use that as a negative thing. As Marvel movies continue to evolve and as we go into like 10 plus years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, things do need to feel different. This cookie cutter thing of all Marvel films feeling the exact same, it needs to go away. So that to me, you know, it's a critique, right? Or it is a real thing that it does feel different, but I think it's being painted in this negative light because some people don't like the film when I don't really think that it's negative at all. I think the couple of things, and full spoilers by the way, in the way that I'm going to discuss this film, is that does it feel different? Yes. Is it bad? No, not at all. Is it great? No, it's not a great film either. It's a beautifully shot film. It's an emotional film. You feel the weight of these characters being burdened with immortality. I think you do that. It does that great. Do they feel a little bit disconnected sometimes? And it affected my ability to connect to the characters. Some Icarus, I really, he always feeling like not quite here, right? In the sense of the movie and what was going on, it seems like he was burdened, and it makes sense when you think about his character. Like he knew the reason why the Eternals existed. He knew the truth to them being created and everything like that, and why they were there. And he did feel very robotic, but I think that was supposed to be in what separated him from the other characters. He was so driven by purpose for why he was created that maybe he didn't allow himself to become as human as some of the other Eternals had become. So I think that was especially tough one for Icarus. But Cersei, who was like our main character in this film, great. I can't wait to see more of her going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And overall, I did like the Eternals. I know there have been some critiques and some other pundits who have said that they didn't really feel attached to the Eternals, and that's their experience with it. But mine wasn't that at all. I really do like these characters a lot. I hope to see more of them going forward, and I think ultimately where my problems lie with this movie is that they try to do so much in one movie. And yes, the movie was extremely long for a Marvel movie, but I don't really think that the length um hurt it a lot. I really do think it all boils down to everything that they were trying to do. Me personally, this is complete in hindsight, and we don't know how this is going to filter out with the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this may be why, this movie ultimately has some of the issues it does for me, is that it felt like they had to get to a place in this first film for whatever else is probably going to happen in the rest of the MCU. And I think this movie was hurt by that. For example, I think that if this movie the first Eternals movie would have been establishing these characters, establishing that, they've been here for millions of years, their place in humanity, them now trying to live out their lives separately and being a part of humanity and then having to come back together. And I think, if we would have seen some more epic battles in the past, the battles with the deviants, maybe a bigger villain or maybe Crow in the past, and them encountering him, thinking he died, and then this movie ends. The first movie ends with Ajax's death, and we don't know why, or maybe we find out Icarus did it, and or whatever else. And then the second movie picks up on the purpose of why they're really here. Why did Icarus turn? What's going on with him? I think that would have connected more broader or audience more to these characters right away. And I think that maybe that is the biggest thing that hurt this film, is that they had to do so much to fit into whatever the bigger storyline going on in the MCU is. And that is some of the stuff that hurt some of these things. When you look at like Guardians of the Galaxy being set out as far as it was, and yes, they were able to work it back in, but they really just told the story of those characters with them MCU threads kind of being filtered in. And that movie was really us getting to know them and seeing them come together as a team. We were really coming in at, like, in some ways, the second, or what a lot of movies would do in the third movie in a series, right? As far as like these group of characters breaking apart and coming back together, it felt like it was a lot that Chloe Zhao and the writers had to do with this first movie, and that it hurt the story that this movie just wanted to tell, or not really the story that they wanted to tell, but it hurt the character some to say. And if think about it, if this was a second movie, we had this whole first movie learning the Eternals and whatever else, and then we end on Ajax. Like, we didn't get a lot of Ajax. Me personally, I didn't feel a huge connection to Ajax because we didn't see Salma Hayek a lot in this film at all. So when she died, it was kind of like this. Oh yeah, I feel that the characters feel the weight and what she meant to them, but we didn't really get that. A first movie of telling how these characters went to this new world of Earth and helped throughout, and like building that family dynamic between the number of them, and then us losing one of them to kind of end that first film, I think would have made that film so much better. And that's just my opinion. Again, they pay people who are supposed to be a lot smarter than me to come up with these things and make these decisions, but that's just my thought on what could have possibly helped these characters a little bit. But as far as the movie that was told and given to us here, the fight scenes I think could have been better. Yeah, overall, I think it could have been better. It's a visually stunning and beautiful movie, but I think where, if we're gonna compare it, whereas like Dune excelled for me, but this did not, is that I just didn't feel, I didn't feel like, I feel like things just happened to happen in this film, and that it would have been better to slow down some. Um, but really, still, like I said, solid movie. It's not in the it- if we're gonna, it's probably more towards the bottom half of the MCU to me, but not anywhere towards the dead bottom of MCU films. Films seem to be doing really good in the box office. It did say the Eternals are going to return. I do think that a sequel to this film could be so much better, because now that we have these characters established, and now the places that we can go with that, especially now that they're split up, and we get Thanos' brother showing up at the end and saying that he knows where their friends are and they have to go get them. All that, I think, can set us up to have a great second film in the series. And I hope Chloe Zhao does return and she gets to continue her vision. I do think that with sequels to this film, it can really do more and be one of the better franchises within the MCU. But I kind of think this is one of the first ones that I think I would like this, and I would like this franchise better if it's more separated. And I know the first one was set on Earth, and now they're all off Earth. If it's separated from what's going on in some of the other parts of the MCU, and that's kind of my critique of where the MCU needs to go. Yes, build up to like big events that bring in some of the characters, but every single movie having to filter into like one giant climax, I don't think they need to do anymore. Yes, do that with different parts of the MCU. Like if you want to have this Eternals, and then whatever the Guardians are doing, somehow them and maybe Thor all come across and they have kind of their own thing, whereas the Earth-based Avengers or wherever else have their own story that they kind of build to, and they all come together too. Or like the darker side of the MCU with like Moon Knight and Blade, and now the Black Knight, and maybe they all have their own thing that they have to kind of go towards. That's where I think the MCU can excel at. It doesn't have to be this every single franchise that we have now all has to coincide with this major one story, that you can have a few different bigger stories like you do more in the comic book universe. So that's just my thought on it. Let me know down below what you guys think about the Eternals. I really did like the film. It did have some issues, as I mentioned here before, but like I said, all the actors, great. This is a great cast, right? Angelina Jolie was used very sparingly, but I like the time that she was used in. I like the story that was told with her. When you think about an immortal being burdened with the weight of their own memories and those being messed with, and like how that factors into psyche, all of that I liked. I liked Sprite's character as well. I'm excited to see, like, is her being a human now going forward, what happens with that. Icarus, let me know down below if you guys think Icarus is dead or not, because I like how they left it open ended. And then even with that being said, with Icarus's memories kind of being stored and the Celestials having access to that, we can see another body being made for Icarus or any of the other characters, so to say. Maybe they're brainwashed, and maybe our Eternals that survive this movie now have to fight their friends that don't have their memories. Like a lot of things could be done. But overall, I really did like this movie. Yeah, yeah, it's like I said, beautifully stunning movie. That's really it. My thoughts on it. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you agree, disagree with me, whatever you think on. Let me also know, how do you think the future of the Eternals franchise should go? Do you think it should kind of be out on its own thing, or would you like to see it more so brought back into whatever's going on with the mainstream MCU? Let me know down below all those things. You make sure you can follow us at the Film Frequency. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, thefilmfrequencypod@gmail.com. We also have a voicemail at 614-547-2039. We are trying to be more consistent, so make us let us know, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm out. Peace.